Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Ellon in Aberdeenshire again, which is home of course to Brewdog, who many of you will know as being the largest Scottish craft brewery these days. But this time Brewdog have had a threesome, so we've got another interesting collaboration beer for you. So this time Brewdog have got into bed with Stone Brewing Company, who are from the northern part of California over in America, and Magic Rock Brewing, who are from Huddersfield in Yorkshire in northern England. And this beer is called Magic Stone Dog, and it's supposed to be a kind of saison paleo hybrid, but Rate Beer and Beer Advocate have it down as a kind of Belgian ale, so it should be a really interesting one for us to try. And this is my very first encounter with either Magic Rock or Stone as well, and I know they're meant to be very good breweries, but this is the very first time I'm trying anything from them. But I've done many Brewdog reviews for you before, so I know it will be a good beer. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very brief history of all the breweries involved here. It will only be 2 or 3 minutes long, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery websites are all in the video description for you below, along with links that will take you to my other reviews that I've done from Brewdog and that I will do from the other two in the near future. There's also a link down there to my Untappd profile, so please add me as a friend, and please like the Facebook page that I've made for the channel as well. Your support would be much appreciated. But anyway, to tell you about Brewdog first, as I told you, Brewdog are based in Ellon in Aberdeenshire, which is a little bit to the north of the city of Aberdeen. Very famous oil city actually. But this brewery are the love child of James Watt and Martin Dickey, and they were founded back in 2007 at a small brewery in the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh, which is in the very northeast corner of the country, right on the tip of the monster's nose if you like. But in 2012 they moved their brewing operations to this new purpose-built facility in Ellon, like I told you about. So these guys are largely inspired by the American craft brewing renaissance, and they're very well known for being a kind of experimental craft brewery. Their trademark styles, if you like, really are pale ales, IPAs and double IPAs, although that said they do actually brew some very nice stouts as well. I've always thought Brewdog brew a very nice stout, so very good craft brewery nonetheless, regardless of what style they're actually brewing. But these guys actually cite Stone as one of the main influences for them getting into the craft beer world. But they've got several brew pubs these days. This first one opened up in 2009, which was Aberdeen, their home bar, one of my regular haunts when I was studying there. They expanded throughout the rest of Scotland the following year, then down into England, and now they have various international sites, including Roppongi in Tokyo in Japan, 2 in Sweden, they've got a couple in Italy now as well, 1 in Barcelona in Spain, they also have 1 in Helsinki and also 1 in Oslo in Norway as well, and 1 down in, I think it's Sao Paulo in Brazil actually. So a lot of interesting things coming from Brewdog. But what's really cool about these guys, one is that they've just announced a second brewery over in the States in Columbus, Ohio, that will be opening up soon. But what's really cool about them is that you can actually, as a fan of the brewery, buy into them. So you go into the Equity for Punk scheme, which is basically where fans of the brewery like you and I can buy shares, and this helps them fund all their infrastructure development, such as the new bars and the new breweries and things. And this is in exchange for a lifetime discount in the shop, so you can get Brewdog beer for really quite cheap actually if you buy into the scheme. So very cool brewery, and they're actually the largest independently owned Scottish craft brewery these days. So if you haven't heard of Brewdog, definitely give them a go, because they're growing very fast and they've also got some really good beer as well, so definitely worth checking out if you've never heard of them before. So to move on to Stone Brewing. Stone Brewing were founded in 1996 in San Marcos, California, which I believe is a little bit to the northeast of San Francisco in the north of California. But they were founded by Steve Wagner and also Greg Koch as well. But this location that they opened in 1996 is now home to Port Brewing Company and also the Lost Abbey Brewery, who are supposed to be a really excellent brewery as well. But in 2006 Stone moved to a new custom built facility in Escondito, which is also home to their restaurant Stone Brewing World and Gardens, and they opened up a second restaurant of the same name in the Point Loma district in San Diego a few years later. And they also own stores in Oceanside, Pasadena, and also in the South Park and Little Italy districts in San Diego as well. But in 2014 the brewery brewed about 287,000 barrels of beer, making them the 9th largest craft brewery in the USA. And the brewery now have 9 year-round brews and various specials as well, and this has earned the brewery a world-class status on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate. And the brewery announced plans to open a restaurant and brewery in Berlin in 2015, and they're expecting this to open in 2016 too. But Stone really are regarded as one of the top craft breweries in America, very influential for very many people actually, even though they are one of the kind of newer ones ones. The older ones, of course, started in the late 70s and early 80s, but Stone have got a very, very good reputation. So finally, on to Magic Rock. So Magic Rock, as I told you, are based in Huddersfield in Yorkshire in England, and these guys are another very new brewery. They were established in 2011 by brothers Richard and Johnny Burhouse, although Johnny later left, being bought out by Richard, and they were soon joined by Stuart Ross, who is the head brewer. And the beer brewing began in mid-2011, and the beers proved so popular that the brewery won the accolade of Best New Brewery of 2012 from ratebeer.com, independent website, as many of you will know. But this brewery was largely inspired by the burgeoning craft beer market in America, and they've been expanding their capacity and staff steadily ever since due to the demand for their beers. And they've got quite a hefty range, so go and check out all the websites of all the breweries, and you will actually get an idea of all the different beers that they brew. But Magic Rock are one that I've not tried yet, but someday they're actually a brewery that I really have been meaning to get into, because I've heard very, very good things about them. So hopefully this is the first of many beer reviews that involve Magic Rock Brewing Company. But anyway, that's your kind of brief history of all the breweries involved there. We'll get on to the tasting of this beer now. So this one is a 5% beer. It's described as a Belgian ale by Rate Beer and Beer Advocate. As I told you, you can see there the Magic Stone dog thing. You can see Magic Rock symbol just up there. You can see Stone Brewing Company just to the right, and you can see the Brewdog symbol in the middle, and it's quite nicely presented. It tells you a little bit on the side about this one. It says Magic Stone Dog Saison Pale Ale Hybrid. Surfing and sunbathing meet harvest time in this summer style mashup. This Saison Pale Ale Hybrid is the result of a summer fling between Brewdog, Stone and Magic Rock. The ultimate European farmhouse ale fused with classic US session style, a rustic hoppy mongrel of a beer perfect for drinking on long lazy evenings in the sun. Brewed with wheat, rye, oats and amber barley malt, and hopped with Simcoe and Amarillo, and infused with a heady mix of spices. This is a hell of a way to celebrate the best time of the year. The hazy days of summer will soon be over, so make hay while the sun shines, especially if you live in Scotland. So this one was actually brewed in Aberdeen. As I said, it comes in at 5%. It's got wheat, rye, oats and amber barley malt in the malt base, and Simcoe and Amarillo in the hopping, and it's infused with quite a few different spices as well, so it should be a really interesting one for us to review. This one was introduced for Collaboration Fest 2014 from Brewdog, and they also brewed the one that I reviewed for you a few videos back from Victory as well. That was the other one they introduced for then. So let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting then. Standard Brewdog bottle cap on this one, but as you could see, a nice kind of smoky opening on this, and you can smell the nice fruity characteristics of this beer as you open it up there. Good bit of carbonation coming out of this one as you pour it. Exactly what you expect from one of these kind of Saison beers. The Saison is one that I always remember you getting a good bit of carbonation from. We'll just leave it at that before we put the last little bit in. But as you can see, it's poured with a huge head and a nice big kind of bright goldeny colour there. I'll just bring the light down so that you can see that a little bit better. There you are. So you can see it's a nice bright orangey golden amber colour. If I put my fingers behind it, if I put it in front of them, actually it is transparent. I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera just because it's a little bit darker, but it's a nice hazy bright yellowy orange colour of beer. This one looks very, very nice. There isn't any kind of visible sediment in this actually. I'm surprised at that because I've had it in the fridge for 5 or 6 days now, but as you could see there was a huge white kind of bumpy head on this one, a little bit of froth to it as well, some carbonation sticking to the side of the glass, but a lot of little bubbles just going up towards the bottom of the head there. So let's just stick the last little bit of this in. You can see a little bit of sediment going into the beer now, but it looks a very, very nice one, I have to say. So yeah, looks beautiful. There is a little bit of sediment in there now. You can just see 1 or 2 little particles floating around, but it looks very good. Some bigger carbonation bubbles visible there now, but let's give it a smell and see how we get on here. So as you would expect from this kind of style of beer, there is a big, just put a little bit on my nose there, it happens sometimes, there is a big kind of light white bready characteristic from this one, a bit of yeasty sweetness too, and a big grassy and aromatic hop character from this one. That's exactly what you expect from the Amarillo hop that's in this. You expect a big orangey citrus characteristic and some nice grassy and aromatic character coming out of it. There's a bit of tropical fruit in there as well, but it's quite mild. You've got some passion fruit and some apricot in there. I think it's mainly an apricot-y note that's coming out, but you are getting a bit of more sharp character from the from the passion fruit in there, and you can pick up a wee bit of piney resin too. The tropical notes that you'll get from this are definitely from the Simcoe hop. But it has everything you expect. It's actually, I think it's quite a mild nose that's on this one compared to some of the other Brewdog beers. You're having to sugar it up a little bit to get to get certain elements of the nose out of it, but it's maybe just because it has such a big head. So we'll have a wee taste of it and see if we can have another look at the nose as we go through it. So this is Magic Stone Dog, 1/3 English, 1/3 Scottish, 1/3 American, from Magic Rock, Stone and Brewdog. Slàinte. Tell you something, for not having such a strong nose, and I'll stick by that now that the head's gone down a little bit, for a beer that doesn't have such a strong nose, it gives you a big hoppy blast as soon as you take it in. It's actually a fairly active carbonation until your mouth adjusts to it as well. So the hoppy characteristics are coming out of this one really quite quickly actually. You've got the nice slightly acidic character that you expect of the Saison beer coming out as well, and that's mixing with the fruity elements, the nice oranges and a little bit of the tropical fruit as well. There is a bit of a kind of lemony citrus coming out of this one, but a good orangey, juicier orange characteristic, and the passion fruit and apricot, that's coming out on the front curve of the tongue, and it actually makes it quite dry. That's one of the first elements of this beer that you will notice. Yeah, I'll stick with that. The malt base in it actually feels very light. You get just this kind of pale malt blanket across the middle of the tongue there. You can feel the wheaty elements to the beer coming up right in the middle of the tongue too. You can just feel that kind of, not quite a fluffy wheat character, but I guess you would know what I'm meaning. The wheat character just builds as you move into the aftertaste of this beer, and it comes out really nicely actually. Yeah, the malt base of this just gets a little bit sweeter as the beer progresses towards the aftertaste. So you've got that nice light bready malt base that just comes in right away, gets a little bit sweeter and slightly spicy with that kind of wheaty character that's in it as well. There's a little bit of cereal in there too, but it's quite smooth cereal. It's not kind of dry and spicy in the way that cereal can sometimes be in beers. It works very nicely, and that kind of wheaty character just builds a good bridge out to the in the middle of the palate. That wheaty character just builds out quite nicely towards the edge of the tongue where you'll get these hoppy characteristics. But you can really, when the liquid's actually on your tongue, you actually can feel the spiciness of this beer, and it's coming from a mixture of the hops. There's a good dry character from the hops when the liquid's actually on your tongue, the carbonation and also those spices that they've put in this beer. But yeah, around the edges of the palate you're getting some really interesting characteristics. I want to say there's just a tiny little bit of pine resin just underpinning this beer, but it is quite mild. Really at the front of the tongue, like I told you at the start, you're getting a nice juicy orangey citrus characteristic out of this. There is a bit of the acidity that you expect of the Saison style of beer mixing in with that, but there is a wee bit of kind of passion fruit and apricot flavours there. More passion fruit than apricot, but you can just, as the beer progresses into the aftertaste, you can pick out a little bit of an apricot-y flavour from this beer, and of course that's from the kind of Simcoe hop, and so is the passion fruit. The orangey characteristics come a little bit more from the Amarillo, and the grassy, you can pick up a bit of grassy and aromatic character as you move further around the tongue, and as you get right towards the back you can just get that little touch of pine resin that seems to underpin this beer. But yeah, really quite nicely done actually. There's a nice juiciness to the flavour of this beer, and it's the oranges and little bits of that passion fruit and tropical fruit coming out there. It's a very interesting style. It's the Saison Pale Ale. The Pale Ale beer, I always think of Pale Ales as being a little bit more kind of grassy and aromatic-y and a little bit pine resin-y as well, depending where they come from, and you can get that in the beer, but there's the fruit characteristics at the front make me think a little bit more of the IPA rather than just simply a pale ale. But maybe that's just my perception of it. But between a Saison and the Pale Ale IPA, the more hop forward beers, really works quite well actually. The bread base is done perfectly, and you've just got a nice juicy hop character around that, and some of the drier aspects such as the grassy and aromatic and slightly piney characters as well. So it's almost as if you've got kind of two types of pale ale, and they're more grassy, aromatic one, and then a fruitier one at the front of your tongue, and then this saison malt base, and it works really well. The slightly acidic character kind of from the saison side of the beer works really well with the tropical and slightly citrusy fruits at the front. So it's almost, in a way, it's almost a bit like a saison as well, but just with a bit more different fruit kind of complementing the acidic flavours of the beer. But it works really, really well. It's definitely a nice, quite tasty beer, this one. But in terms of the mouthfeel, I would say definitely mid-bodied. The carbonation in this one, I think, is quite active actually in comparison with some of the other beers I've had from Brewdog. Can't really speak for the other breweries at the moment, but it's got a slightly oily mouthfeel to it, but at the same time it's got a nice juicy characteristic from those hops as well, and you'll get that little oily bubble just behind the very front of your tongue too. Yeah, nice and juicy, but at the same time a little bit dry at the front of the mouthfeel as well, but you've got a nice light malt base in the middle of your palate too. It's nice and juicy at the front of the tongue, and then a little bit drier as you go around the sides of the palate there. But overall, it's a really nice beer. Comes out a little bit oily, and that helps you bring out some of the more citrusy and kind of fruity slightly passion fruit apricot flavours. The oily character just brings out the fruit nicely and complements the drier characteristics from the other parts of the hop, the pine resin and floral aromaticity and things like that. It's a really, really nice beer, this actually. These collaborations that Brewdog have done, the Weihenstephan, the Ute, and the U-Boat with Victory, and this one as well, all three of them have been really good, so it's cool that I finally got around to reviewing these beers. So yeah, if you do happen to come across this beer, I'm not sure you will now though, because it was 2014 it was released. If you do happen to come across it though, definitely give it a go. Nice and quite an interesting one. It will definitely test your palate. Could potentially be quite a sessionable beer, but I always like doing them for the tasting. But very, very nice brew nonetheless. Very cool to have my first encounter with Stone from America and from Magic Rock in Yorkshire in England as well. I need to check out some of their other beers now, since I've kind of popped the cherry with those two breweries, so hopefully you'll see that in the near future, and I will do many other Brewdog reviews as well. But as always, let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. Always enjoy reading them. In the meantime, until my next beer review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Been really cool to finally review this one for you. Brewdog's first threesome that I've reviewed actually, so hopefully you've enjoyed it, and until my next beer review, it's Slanja for now. Go and like the Facebook page and add me as a friend on Untappd. Cheers.